everybody has their own moon and sun. So. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you may be. CC here, Chris, from New York, Westchester County.
Nice Monday morning, time to make a CC video. Okay, let's try that again. It's Monday morning and it's time to make a CC.
Nah.
It's Monday morning and it's time.
Computer says nah.
Son of a bitch.
I might have a surprise too.
I don't like surprises. Please subscribe.
Okay, I want to talk about the plausible possibility of beyond. I want to talk about death.
The death of flat Earth or the other type of death?
Well, everybody who has experienced death has the same story.
Well, yeah, they're dead, unless, of course, you mean the death of somebody else that they experienced.
No, they all go through this process of
dying,
seeing a light, going back to the beginning of their lives and it flashing in front of them.
Ah, so you mean near-death experiences? Very interesting.
I want to sink my teeth into it. I want to explain to you if we do live in a digital world, which seems like we do.
Well, those two things don't seem related, but okay.
I think when you die, that is kind of like a memory down. Look at this idiot. This guy's going like 120 miles per hour.
Chris, stay focused. Yeah, he may be going 120 miles per hour, but is he recording a YouTube video instead of concentrating on the road?
I think it's like a download from everything that you've done here when you leave this place to remind you of everything.
People who've had near-death experiences often report seeing a bright light, and this light is often described as warm, comforting and inviting. Kind of like the sun, but without the risk of sunburn. Some scientists, however, believe that the bright light might be linked to brain activity in the moments before death. As the brain begins to shut down, it can produce visual sensations that are interpreted as a bright light.
Because sometimes we forget. I mean, do you remember exactly what you were doing on such and such date? 10 years ago? No, you don't.
I can't remember what I was doing 10 minutes ago, let alone 10 years ago, Chris.
Now the light, I don't know what the hell that is. I have no idea what that could be. Psychiatrists have explained that it's some kind of mysterious transport, or could be a wormhole, or who knows.
Well, not you, clearly. And in reality, nobody really knows, because once you're dead, you can't come back to explain what you experience.
I was also thinking about water. And I brought this up before. Water is amazing.
Yeah, water is pretty amazing stuff. Now, I thought you were going to say that water is wet, and there's that whole debate about is water wet or does it just wet the things it touches? It doesn't matter. Carry on, Chris.
Everybody wants you to think that it rained on this world for 6 billion years, or I don't want to say a billion years. It was a billion-year rainstorm that created our oceans.
The idea of a billion-year rainstorm creating the Earth's oceans is more of a myth than a fact. Weird. Earth's water likely came from multiple sources over a very long period, including icy comets and asteroids that bombarded the planet about 4 billion years ago, volcanic outgassing that released water vapor into the atmosphere, and the gradual condensation of this vapor as the Earth cooled. Now, while it's poetic to imagine an endless rainstorm, the reality involves a complex interplay of extraterrestrial impacts, geological processes, and gradual atmospheric changes that collectively form the world's oceans.
Really? Where'd this all come from? Oh, I know, there's an explanation for that, I'm sure.
Yep, there's always an explanation, Chris. And here it is. The salt in our oceans primarily comes from the weathering and erosion of rocks on the land, where rainwater, which is slightly acidic from dissolved carbon dioxide, breaks down rocks and releases ions like sodium and chloride. Now, these ions are carried by rivers and streams into the oceans, accumulating over millions of years as water evaporates and leaves the salt behind. Where do you think it comes from?
But I don't give a shit. It's bullshit.
Then why did you bring it up?
I mean, I don't know what's real and what's fake at this point.
Yeah, we know.
I can't tell. I mean, I believe that we're in a building of some sort. That I do believe. But what's inside the building is the digital world.
Right, just a second. So, Chris, you believe that the Earth is flat and stationary and covered in a dome. So are you now also adding to that the Earth is flat, stationary, underneath a dome, and inside a building?
Because I think about the sky. I think about the stars. How could you see all of those stars all the way to the left and all the way to the right?
Well, I suppose if you look up and to the left, you'll see the stars to the left, and if you look up and to the right, you'll see the stars to the right. Hang on, listen, what stars? You don't even believe that space is real.
And also that we're told that they're 6 trillion light years away. That doesn't make any sense.
Well, it doesn't make any sense because we're not told that. Well, I suppose some stars may be 6 trillion miles away, but some are further, some are closer. Chris, where do you get your information from? Or do you just make it up as you go?
Because they're lights in the sky, but where are they?
In space. That place you don't believe exists.
Are they? They're not tangible objects, obviously. Just like you look at the planets, there's nothing tangible up there.
Well, at least we've got our answer. Yeah, he makes it up as he goes along. What sort of idiot says that the planets and stars aren't tangible objects?
But is it... how far up is it? Because I'm beginning to think it's not in the dome. I believe these are being projected.
Ah, but if they're not inside the dome... What the hell am I talking? Projected onto what then, Chris?
Because all the pictures that we have, it gets up to a certain point where it's just blackness. There's nothing there.
Yeah, and that's why it's called space, Chris. Now, the word space comes from the Latin word spatium, which means room, extent, or distance, and it conveys the idea of an open, expansive area, which means that up there in that blackness, there is lots of space.
You might be able to see the moon, and you might be able to see the sun, but anything else you cannot see.
What do you mean you might be able to see the sun and the moon? You can't bloody miss them.
Everybody has their own moon and sun.
What?
There's more than one sun, guys. Okay? There's several suns.
Now, for a star to be classified as a sun, it has to have a planet or other celestial bodies in its orbit. So, based on that, then yeah, there's probably billions of suns spread across the galaxy, but I've got a funny feeling you mean our sun. There's more than one of our sun.
But if everybody has their own sun and everybody has their own moon, well, then that's a projection up there.
I don't even know what to say to that. And I've been making videos about flat earthers for 6 years, and I've heard other flat earthers say the same thing. But stop and think about it for a second. How could everybody... There's 8 billion people on Earth, so that would mean they would need 8 billion suns. Do you even hear what you're saying?
It makes sense.
Well, if everybody on Earth has their own personal sun and you think that makes sense, then that explains a lot.
Every flat earther that I know is exactly 30 minutes away from me.
That must be handy. You can share your idiotic ideas with each other without having to drive too far.
It's almost like we asked for that. We want to meet flat earthers, but when we chose to be down here, we said to ourselves, well, I don't want a flat earther around me, because it'll ruin my experience down here. Say I don't become a flat earther. These are all things that you spoke to before you came down here that you don't remember.
Did you understand that? Because I've got no bloody clue what he's talking about. I thought he meant that he moved to New York because there were other flat earthers there. But I think, and it is only a thought, that he might be talking about prior to being born. He was born into a community. What the hell is he on about?
We all know that we're in some sort of container of some sort. That's the only way we can have air. It's the only way we can have gravity. Air has to have a vacuum in order to exist.
Now, if there was ever any doubt that CC has not got a clue about anything he discusses in his video, that was it. Air can't exist in a vacuum. So how the hell you think that air can only exist in a vacuum is completely beyond me.
You know what I'm saying?
I do know what you're saying, yes, and what you're saying is completely wrong.
You have to be in a container to have air, else it would just gone.
Well, then isn't it lucky for us that our container is our atmosphere, which is held in place by gravity?
There's nothing anybody can do anymore to a flat earther that's ever going to make him think that we live on a ball.
Well, we'll revisit that one once the final experiment has happened, Chris, because if flat earthers are honest, they will have to accept that the earth is a ball, because you can only have a 24-hour sun on a ball-shaped earth.
But the time's going to come where you're going to have no choice and say, hey, I look stupid now that I think I live on a ball. Yeah, that's right. That time's going to come soon.
Chris, you've been saying that for as long as I've been making videos debunking flat earth. It is not going to come soon because the earth is not flat.
So I don't give a shit. I really don't. I have no desire to bother even communicating to anybody who's not who's a ball earther. There's no reason to. It's a waste of our time. We have too much research. We have an app now, okay? It's David Weiss's app that has everything on it.
Ooh, David Weiss's app. Well, we all know that definitely isn't a grift, is it? I've got an app on my phone where I can drive a Bugatti Veyron, but that doesn't mean I really get to drive a Bugatti Veyron, does it?
Remember when YouTube, the good old days? Oh, the friendly days of YouTube. You remember those days? You could find me, you could find all my friends, you can find everything you needed to find out, and some new things on Flat Earth. Now, you can't find dick.
Okay, not really sure why you'd be searching for that on YouTube, but whatever floats your boat, I guess. And Chris, if you need the information, there's a website that rhymes with Corn Hub, and I'm sure there's lots of dick on there.
Except for dickheads that all they do is take other people's videos, make fun of them, and then do that, and explain bullshit, and then just regurgitate nonsense that we already know because we had to go back and learn it all.
Now, I don't want to toot my own horn or anything, but I think I'm probably one of those four.
We had to go back to school because everything we learned in school was bullshit. Everything. Even math. Math doesn't work.
Doesn't it?
Zero doesn't exist.
Oh dear, so you've either been watching Young Sheldon or you've seen Terrence Howard being interviewed by Joe Rogan.
We have a problem.
What?
Zero might not exist.
You cannot figure out how far away something is at all with that kind of math. Because they're made up numbers. They have to come up with something to continue this lie.
All right, calm down, so let's do a little experiment. I have one ball. You're in my hand. Let me take that one ball away. How many balls are in my hand now, Chris? And bear in mind that you just said zero doesn't exist. So how many balls have I got in my hand? And don't be childish.
No, you weren't told that we were spinning at 1,000 miles per hour at the equator.
Yes, I was. And bear in mind, Chris, that 1,000 miles per hour, given the Earth's circumference, equates to 1 revolution a day, which is what we expect on a ball-shaped planet.
Okay, you weren't told that. No. Because then you would have questioned something when you were a kid and asked the teacher, hey, teach, I don't feel any movement at all. Why the don't I feel any movement?
Well, if you had asked like that, you would have probably been sent to the principal's office. But if you'd asked nicely, I'm sure your teacher would have explained to you that we don't necessarily feel movement if it's constant. What we feel is acceleration and deceleration.
I don't understand that.
Exactly, and that's the problem with flat earthers. They don't understand anything they argue about. Love you, bye.
That's all, folks.